President Trump campaigned on closing the Biden open border. He was very clear that he would, upon taking office, execute a program that included deportations of illegal aliens permitted to enter the country and resettled in communities all across America by the previous administration. As we have discussed here numerous times, the Biden open border has led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans and thousands of illegal migrants, sex and human trafficking, and rampant crime all across the country. This week, there were ICE raids in multiple cities, including New York, Chicago, San Francisco, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Miami, and more. Democrats, who apparently still think it's 2021, are going nuts.
On this harrowing anniversary of Holocaust anniversary does have a really eerie echo to something that I think people thought, how could that happen? And that could never happen again.
Nicole Wallace said MSLSD connected deporting illegals today to the Holocaust on Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I guess that's to be expected. But criticism of the president's policy, one that the majority of Americans support because we are a nation of laws, also came from the Catholic Church. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, who for 4 years refused to condemn Joe Biden's various heretical positions, who refused to excommunicate him or deny him communion, was quick to hit back at the Trump administration. The USCCB, writing in part, quote, some provisions contained in the executive order, such as those focused on the treatment of immigrants and refugees, are deeply troubling and will have negative consequences, many of which will harm the most vulnerable among us. Similarly, Pope Francis condemned the Trump administration's immigration policies as a disgrace. Someone, however, should tell the Holy Father that his own country, Vatican City, it is a country, just established a whole new set of immigration laws and penalties for those who violate the territorial integrity of the Vatican City-state. They sound almost Trumpian in their common sense. The new Vatican immigration rules include a 15-year ban for anyone convicted of illegal entry. Repeat offenders face 1 to 5 years in prison. Unauthorized entry can carry a fine ranging from between $10,000 to more than $25,000 and prison sentences ranging from 1 to 4 years, especially if they enter in a group or, quote, by means of violence, threats, or deception to bypass border control systems. There are also penalties for unauthorized overflight of the Vatican by a drone. So apparently it makes sense for the Vatican, but apparently not for the United States. Church wants the United States taxpayers to pay for millions and millions of illegal immigrants while our own people suffer as a result. Vice President J.D. Vance is getting some pushback for his defense of the administration's position and calling out the church hypocrisy and knee-jerk opposition on the issue.
As a practicing Catholic, I was actually heartbroken by that statement. And I think that the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops needs to actually look in the mirror a little bit and recognize that when they receive over $100 million to help resettle illegal immigrants, are they worried about humanitarian concerns, or are they actually worried about their bottom line?
The Vice President is right to question the motives and their position. Catholic charities, Catholic schools, and the church, to one degree or another, is addicted to government money and programs and therefore continue to ignore the inhumanity of the Biden open border policy. Do we really think that authentically Catholic institutions like hospitals or colleges would be kowtowing to the left on a whole host of issues, including climate alarmism, transgenderism, and DEI, if they weren't to some degree concerned about government funding or other consequences associated with the government? The USCCB, in its pronouncements about the Trump policy, also ignored their own previous guidance on immigration, which years ago made it crystal clear that sovereign nations have a responsibility to protect their borders and ensure that immigration does not infringe upon the care of a nation's own people. Suddenly, they've turned a blind eye to the death, the crime, and fiscal chaos caused by 4 years of the open border. Yes, the Catholic Church and Christian theology implores us to care for the immigrant It exhorts us to be driven by love and compassion. But the Bible does not tell people of faith to permit lawlessness or allow an environment that puts people at risk of both exploitation and enslavement. Is there a role for the Catholic Church or other faith-based organizations to aid legitimate, vetted refugees? Absolutely. As Americans, we know that faith-based organizations provide superior services at lower cost than government. But aiding in resettling economic migrants, illegal immigrants, and opposing the deportation of criminal aliens and treating all immigrants the same is a mistake that cannot be excused or papered over with the pages of the Bible. Taking government money to aid in resettlements of illegals and deliberately obstructing legitimate law enforcement activity can't be tolerated. And you can preach love all you want, but Christ made it clear that there are lines that must be drawn as well. Equivocating on doctrine or trying to please the media or liberal government funders won't expand the church. It will shrink it. It won't encourage parents to send their kids to Catholic schools. It will lead to more closures. It ultimately won't reverse the trend of illegal immigrants being captured by a government welfare complex from which they will likely never escape. If the Catholic Church wants to experience a true spiritual resurgence, greater policy influence, and societal impact in the name of truth, leaders should be careful not to be perceived of standing on the side of lawlessness or a perversion of the American dream that empowers the administrative state. Rest assured, the first target of government, as Marx and Engels and Stalin all made clear, would be the church that provides the biblical underpinning of our morality and our freedom. Yes, there needs to be some soul-searching among the miters and the spiers. As for you, Mr. Vice President, keep making those who have read this issue wrong for whatever reason more than a little uncomfortable.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.